97 homes, 90% complete, with families paid up and ready to move in. Instead, they're locked out while we're in a housing crisis. It's a sad state of affairs when a development sold off the plan goes off the rails.
There's 97 apartments sitting there, dormant, and we're in the middle of a housing crisis. It just doesn't make sense.
We've bought furniture, we've bought electrical goods. They're all sitting in a storeroom.
A glittering jewel turned white elephant.
Mentally and emotionally devastating for my family, and I feel what's happened in the last 6 months, we've been put in a limbo.
The Sapphire development here was supposed to be a dream home for many buyers who bought off the plan some nearly a decade ago. The building is 90% complete, but now the developer has gone bust, and it means those homeowners could be about to lose everything.
The fact that they're trying to now get us to rescind our contracts it just screams something's not right.
Hayley Hudson bought a one-bedroom apartment in the Sapphire Gosford development 3 years ago for $365,000.
It was called the hole in the ground in Gosford for quite some time before that because they couldn't get anyone to build on it.
When she bought, work was already underway. The developer, Gosford Property Developments, promising it would be move-in ready in 12 months.
In June 21, when I put the deposit down, we were told completion would be June 2022. And then sort of a couple of months before June 2022, we were told it's going to be a little bit longer.
That delay stretched into this year when Gosford Property Developments went into administration in April, then liquidation. The development all but finished. How frustrating is it to know your home is basically complete, but you just might not ever get the keys?
Incredibly frustrating. To have gone through this the last 3 years and to still be going through it now, knowing that my apartment is literally there, I can see it and I can't move into it, is just beyond frustrating.
Since Hayley bought off the plan, property prices in the area have boomed. She paid $365,000. Another one bedroom in the complex is currently listed for $460,000. A 3-bedroom 3 years ago, $700,000 to $850,000. This one is currently advertised for $1.25 million. But administrators Courcordis now want to revoke the contracts of the near 80 buyers before the sunset clause hits at the end of the month, which puts them back at square one.
It's either I make the over $100,000 profit or the liquidators get it. So that's definitely why I want to hold on to the apartment.
Savesh Desai should be packing to move into his new 3-bedroom apartment. Instead, he's moving into his third rental in as many years. He bought for $700,000 3 years ago. His apartment now worth over $1 million, a price he couldn't afford if he has to repurchase.
It's a trauma. We're living the trauma, but everything is so uncertain, right? So like you speak to different people, solicitors, it's so uncertain. There's no clear direction.
He's been watching the Sapphire building go up from his current apartment and was told he'd be moving in March, only to find out the developer doesn't have the money to finish the project.
I would not give up because it's unfair for an average Australian family like me, and I'm sure there'd be more, who's put in their hard-earned money, and only to be told at a 90% stage of completion that, this has gone into administration, now in liquidation.
If we decide not to rescind, we're not sure what is going to happen after that.
Ros Hunter planned on retiring to Sapphire Gosford. Now the shine has well and truly worn off.
The fact that we were getting correspondence from them and a timetable listing out everything, book the lift to be able to move in after settlement and all this sort of stuff.
Having already retired, Ros says she also couldn't afford to rebuy what they had in the current market.
We were 8 weeks out from completion, and to be told that it's not happening, it's just a kick in the guts.
In a statement to A Current Affair, the builder Pacific Project Group, who has also been left in the lurch, said, PPG at all times maintained and made it clear that we stand ready and eager to remobilise and resume work on the project immediately, despite the fact it is presently owed millions in securities as well as millions for finished work that has not been paid for.
We would really love to be able to move into this apartment and just get on with our life.
I don't have a plan B, right? Like I said, I'm emotionally invested in this property. And if they force us to rescind the contract, then of course I'm going to go to the court.
Insolvency firm Cork Quarter said in a statement the liquidators lack the funding to complete the development. A funding proposal cannot be sought because the exact costs required for completion are still unknown.
Don't put us in limbo. We've got our dreams attached to it. And we would want a fair go here.
Well, property lawyer Amanda Farmer joins me in the studio. Amanda, you know, we cover far too many stories like this, and it is just wrong what's happening to these families.
Ali, it is heartbreaking. Imagine watching your dream home being built, planning for the future, planning your family around moving in to this home, only to be told the deal's off, it's not going to happen. And how shocking to discover that this is actually possible.
So if we break it down, the developer has gone bust and the liquidator wants to cancel the contracts of the buyers. Why?
Well, they're saying that there isn't enough money to complete the development. They're asking for the buyer's permission to cancel the contracts. Buyers could agree to that. Sounds like they're not going to. The case then needs to go to the court for the court to decide what's going to happen.
OK, so if these buyers decide we're not going to walk away from our contracts, it goes to court. I assume that means they have to get very expensive lawyers to effectively keep what is theirs.
Yeah, Ali, I would say that these poor people are already spending money on lawyers, getting advice, trying to understand what their rights and obligations are, money that they did not budget for. They might have had some money set aside to buy their nice new lounge suite, not to pay their lawyer. And yes, if this goes to court, there will be more costs.
So how is this allowed to happen? I mean, where is the protection for people who buy off the plan?
There certainly isn't enough protection for people who buy off the plan, especially when we're talking about multi-storey apartment buildings. It's a little bit different to a one-off freestanding home. When these developers go bust, it shatters hundreds of people's lives.
I mean, we just heard there that these apartments now are worth a whole lot more when these people bought in, right? At some point, they are going to be sold and someone will make money. Who?
It's sounding like it is unlikely to be the people who should be making the money, which is the people who put their lives on hold and thought they were investing into the property market for years, and it's turning out that might not be the case. It is possibly going to be another developer who comes in and the administrator sells to that developer and they resell the apartments. It's going to be the banks and the lenders who lend money to these developers. They'll be the ones who make the money at the end of the day.
Does that make you mad?
Absolutely.
Top end of town is doing all right out of this again, and these people, as you say, have watched their dream homes go up at the last minute, get told, it's not yours.
It is not fair. It is not fair that the most vulnerable people are the ones who bear all the risk.
Has anything illegal happened here?
Well, we don't know that yet. If that goes to court, then that is something the court will be looking at. The developer, through the administrator, will have to explain themselves. They'll have to explain, why didn't this development work out? Was it poorly managed? And in past cases, the courts have come down pretty hard on these developers. They don't like to see owners left out in the cold. But this is a tricky one.
You know what, even if nothing illegal has happened, it feels pretty immoral.
It is wrong. It shouldn't happen. And it should be tackled right at the beginning of the process. Developers who don't have the capacity to complete a project should never be allowed to start a project.
Because if we look at this more broadly, right, you have a property market that has just boomed. So can a developer go bust, deliberately pass, say, the sunset clause, then re-emerge under a new name and sell off the property at a higher price?
It is possible, and we have definitely seen that happen.
Yeah.
We are trying to put laws in place to prevent that from happening.
So what needs to change?
We need to tackle this at the front end of the process. We need to make sure that the right types of developers, reputable Developers who do good work, quality builds, are the ones who are given permission to build these kinds of developments. Not the dodgy ones, not the ones who are biting off more than they can chew. We need to make sure that developers are properly licensed. There is no licensing regime for developers. There is one territory that has this regime. It is the ACT. It has been described as radical by the property developers. They don't like it, but it needs to be rolled out right across the country. And some other protection for these owners, some mandatory insurance to be in place. There are bonds and there are warranties once the building is finished and once the owners are in there, but there's nothing to protect owners when a developer goes bust in this kind of situation.
So would you ever buy off the plan?
I would never buy off the plan, Ali. Not at all. It is too risky in this current climate.
Yeah, but a lot of families don't have a choice, right? You know, you're trying to get into the property market and something else becomes available, you kind of need to roll the dice.
Absolutely, and we have a government that wants to build 1.2 million homes in the next 5 years. The only way to do that is to go up. We're not going to be going out. We're going to be building a lot more apartments. That does mean a lot more off-the-plan sales, and we do need some more protection for our purchasers.
You know, we have, 90 apartments pretty much ready to go. You've got families desperate to move in. No wonder we can't solve the housing problems in this country. Thanks, Samantha.
Thank you, Ali.